Hello and welcome to the marketplace. Coming up this afternoon, bilateral creditors reject haircut with Ghana, expected to commence servicing of external debts after 4 years. We'll tell you more as the finance minister heads to China next week. Also coming up, rating agency Fitch expects Ghana to emerge from default on its foreign currency debt in 2024. My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Thanks for being with us. Details coming up. And thanks for staying with us, everyone. Now, rating agency Fitch expects Ghana to emerge from default on its foreign currency debt in 2024. In its regional sub-Saharan African sovereigns outlook, it said that Ghana will come good in terms of restructuring its debts. Here's more in this report.
The UK-based firm said the macro outlook for sub-Saharan Africa in 2024, including Ghana, points to stable median real gross domestic product growth and lower average inflation, which nonetheless remains high across a number of sovereigns. It, however, expects financing challenges to persist as most sub-Saharan African sovereigns do not have affordable access to international capital markets without credit enhancements. It forecasts a gradual fiscal consolidation due to financing constraints and fiscal reform efforts, which in many cases are linked to International Monetary Fund programs. This consolidation, it believes, will help government debt to the size of the economy to broadly stabilize. It warned that multilateral funding will remain a key support more broadly across the region. However, risks remain tilted to the downside.
Well, on Zoom with us is Professor William Swepa, Associate Professor of Finance at the Andrews University. Good afternoon to you from here. What do you make of this forecast by Fitch, and what would it mean for our economy and the situation going forward?
You, Daryl, and your viewers. This prediction is coming at a time where Ghana is having the negotiation with its bilateral creditors to be able to meet the IMF requirement. Indeed, it's expected that if all things go well as we are anticipating, our balance of payment will improve. We may have foreign currencies to increase our financial transactions to be able to honor our commitment in foreign currencies. That is the essence why IMF gives this kind of financing. So, for Ghana to be able to get out of this debt default, foreign debt default situation, it means that we have to be in a position to have a lot of foreign currencies. And that is what is gradually happening. It may take some time, but once we get the IMF approving the second tranche, it is anticipated that other donors will also follow suit to support Ghana's economy. The IMF program, though we see it as a unit, but it also comes with its benefit, seeing that other supporting entities coming in. For example, once the IMF loan is approved, already we know the World Bank is ready to give Ghana 250 million, which is also towards the economy resuscitation. So these are some of the plans that will help our balance of payment to improve. And once we have a lot of foreign currencies coming in, we may be in the position to honor our foreign currency commitments.
Yeah, and Fitch, however, in its sovereign outlook, expects financing challenges to persist as most sub-Saharan African countries like Ghana do not have affordable access to international capital markets without credit enhancements. What sort of challenge does this present, and how do we get around it as a country?
I mean, we for countries in sub-Saharan Africa, when we went to, okay, let me put it this way, we started going to international markets to borrow, bring the money in to ensure rapid development. The point is on rapid development. So most of the foreign loans we have taken in sub-Saharan Africa come in to support this development, but we realize that with the challenges coming in, that we are not able to service our loan, like in the case of Ghana, and then also having foreign currency challenges, we will not be able. And then the third one is our ratings, our risk levels have become very high because of liquidity challenges. That is why we see that it's going to be a major issue for a country like Ghana. How to get out of this? So without the international capital market giving us financing, it means that we may have to live within our means. Government may have to look at which project they need to cut or suspend to be able to use the tax that we generate within the country to be able to satisfy these or complete these projects. And simply put, as the IMF say, we have to slow down development, or we have to slow down some aspects of the growth of the economy. And that is why we see IMF or World Bank normally, when they see that your country is out of the international capital market, they ask you to reduce your expected GDP growth. So once you see the expectation of GDP growth is coming down, it gives you an indication that the country may have some liquidity challenges, and that is what we have experienced now. So the advice to get out of this is and especially this is a political season, political parties must be careful with their campaign messages and promises, knowing that our tax revenue will not be able to help us to fulfill those promises. Promises a political party should give or may give must be within what is something that's within our budget. In the past, both parties who have managed Ghana, they've come out with huge promises, and when they come to implement, the funds are not there, then they go out to borrow. But this time, that we have learned our lessons, it is better to come out with a promise that you can fulfill within our means, the means of Ghana, not to try to borrow too much so that we find ourselves in the mess that we have now.
Okay. Meantime, we're getting some indication of the debt restructuring agreement reached with bilateral creditors. For instance, there will be no haircut on the $5.4 billion bilateral debts that will be restructured. And the cut-off date now pegged at December 2022. Also, payment of interest and principal will be done after 4 years. The Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has been speaking to my colleague George Afe in an interview that airs on Thursday. He insists negotiations are yet to be finalized on the various terms. What do you make of the terms as we know them now, the best deal the country could get?
So, Daryl, so if you remember, for me, and this is not new to me, the structure or the term granted to Ghana was the one that was offered to us when the COVID pandemic persisted. So during May 2020 up to December 2021, the debt suspension initiative that was started by the G20 is the same approach or the same deal that has been offered Ghana. So that is what is in the term. That remember, Ghana was supposed to accept this terms, but we failed to sign on to it. I mean, there were about 73 countries, but only 48 accepted the terms at that time. So the only difference that we have seen is that the cutoff date is the one that has come to December 2022. What if you really understand the G20 program? It means that this is the time that the government of Ghana may have to approach each individual bilateral entity or creditor to either negotiate on how you restructure or you reprofile the debt. And from indications, what we are hearing is that they have given Ghana to do this within 4 years. So within the period of from 2020, from this time up to 2026, the government of Ghana may be talking to these bilateral creditors. And let me repeat them. I think there are three main strategies that are involved in the G20 Common Framework. You restructure, which may include haircuts, and now which is taken off the table. So you reprofile, or you can ask for debt forgiveness. So these are the options for Ghana under this agreement that we are going to negotiate. So on paper, we will go to IMF and say, yes, we have a rich agreement with our bilateral entities under the G20 framework. But then the actual negotiations of what we will get from each creditor will be based on whether we reprofile our debt with a creditor or we restructure the debt, which may include a haircut, or we ask for debt forgiveness. And depending on whatever you get, I mean, that's what may work for Ghana.
Well, the finance minister is headed for China next week. He's also expected to meet bondholders. What is this meeting intended to achieve, do you think?
So, as I mentioned, China, probably our best bet of strategy or discussion is how are we going to reprofile our debt, because China will not give us any haircut. So, and we know that China, they have reprofiled debt for some countries in Sub-Saharan Africa. So that should be our strategy, that the 1.5 or 1.9, 1.5 or 1.9 billion that we owe them, how do we reprofile them in terms of the duration on the loans, if something can be done to extend the repayment periods. In that case, it's going to change the yearly amount that we have to pay to China. For commercial creditors, especially the Euro bondholders, I mean, they really understand that when you purchase a bond, the interest charge, the interest rate or the coupon rate is based on how risky the country is. So one of them normally, which is part of the prospectus, is sovereign risks and credit risks. So based on these two, they know that, I mean, they may suffer some kind. These risks will cause them to change their position. But the argument will be that if bilateral countries have given us some room to maneuver in causing reduction of repayment, can they also give us room in terms of causing a reduction? The signal is that once we did not get a haircut from the bilateral creditors, it may also be very difficult for us to get haircut from the bondholders. My best bet is that the bondholders will move on the same line of the external creditors, where government of Ghana will have to pursue reprofiling in terms of the duration, the repayment periods on our debt, and really not getting haircuts on them. The reprofiling of our debt may cause a reduction in the interest and principal payment, but it will lengthen the duration that we have to make these payments. So if we are supposed to pay in 5 years, probably and pay, say, an amount of, say, $1 million every year, probably they may say, okay, pay to us in 7 years, but you pay $700 million in every year. Something like that. That is what, for someone who does not understand these terms, this is what probably is going to happen.
It's always insightful speaking with you, Professor Williams Pipra, Associate Professor of Finance at the Andes University. I appreciate the insight there. Now, rice and rubber value chains could rake in $100 million annually if properly invested in. That's according to Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Incentive-Based Risk Sharing System for Agricultural Lending, GESAL, Kwawu. Speaking to Joy Business after Absa Bank Ghana received an award for its role in agricultural financing, Mr. Kwawu indicated that agric lending has increased since the establishment of GESAL. He however says that more can be done to improve the sector.
The absence of financing limits the average acreage of cultivated farmlands, prospects of agro-processors and value chain actors. This impedes agricultural growth with consequences for the macroeconomy as a whole. In Ghana, the financial sector players involved in agricultural financing include banks, rural banks, savings and loans companies, and microfinance institutions. These financial bodies have been hesitant in investing in the agri sector due to risks. However, Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Incentive-Based Risk Sharing System for Agricultural Lending, Kwawu, disclosed that agricultural lending increased due to the system put in place to support the sector.
The reality is that not only have we seen agricultural lending improving in quantum, but also seen some sectors change. Let me give you an example. Take the rubber value chain, for example. Yes, you may say rubber is not food, but it's agriculture. And those who process caplams, exports, bring in needed foreign exchange. Since our operation in 2019, we have helped set up 2 indigenous rubber factories in this country. And if we're able to, through our assistance, help work with the banks, finance more rubber factories, that they can bring in a minimum, and these are indigenous companies owned by Ghanaians, $50 million a year annually. I mean, that I believe is remarkable. And that is a clear manifestation of what we've done. Currently, we're also now pioneering a new model in our rice value chain. We've just done the first deal in our Front Plains. We're about working on the second one. And we're hoping that, and that we're doing collaboration with DBG, with Absa is also very much involved in one of them. And the idea is that we're hoping that by end of the year, we should have leveraged finance of close to $50 million in a rice value chain.
As part of building and maintaining relationships with the financial institutions, GESAL awards its partners every year. For 2023, the winning banks were Absa Bank Ghana Limited, Fidelity Bank Limited, and Consolidated Bank Ghana Limited. Take a listen to some of the awardees.
It's a valuable partnership for us. We are committed to growing our exposure in the agricultural sector, and that's a stated objective all the way from the board of the bank through to management, to ensure that as a primarily indigenous bank, we are at the forefront of things that matter to Ghanaians. And we believe that if we continue to positively impact and understand that sector, then that dream of achieving a higher level of self-reliance and, if you like, not just food security, but employment, other bits and areas that agriculture impacts on, becomes a reality.
In as much as the agricultural sector is full of opportunity, it is also still very, very risky. We have to be very clear. It is an area that's risky. So when you are going into it, you need to be clear how you can support, what kind of solutions, what kind of structures, what kind of practical interventions you put in place. So one of the things we do as a bank is that we actually provide capacity building for these farmers around how to keep their books, how to manage their finances, separating personal finances from business finances, building the discipline. That also enables us, with our deep understanding of the sector, to actually put together credit applications that are very good quality, because we work together with the farmers, we work together with our partners to make sure that whatever we are putting on the table as an opportunity for financing is one that will be repaid. Always remember that the money the bank gives out is other people's money. It has to be paid back.
GESAL is a non-banking financial institution established to de-risk agricultural financing and stimulate increased lending to the agri sector.
You're watching The Marketplace. Time now for the Joy Business Advisory Series. Yesterday, we began a conversation on taxes, and if you missed, you may want to catch the discussion on myjoyonline.com. There are videos over there, because There's some tax reliefs you're supposed to be enjoying as individuals and businesses. Did you know? Well, we are continuing our conversation with Associate Director, Tax and Regulatory Services at Deloitte, Kwawu. Welcome back. And today we are focusing on big businesses.
Right.
What are they up against with the introduction of the recent tax measures by the government? It seems like it's going to be a pretty tough year for them.
Right. Thank you. So, as you said yesterday, we began with individual taxes. Today we are looking at big businesses. What are they up against? So 2023 was a year that we had a lot of taxes. We had the growth and sustainability levy coming through. We had the VAT going up from 12.5% to 15%. In this year, 2024, not many new taxes, but then we've had some changes to the VAT exemptions regime, where businesses such as the insurance companies will now be within the VAT scope, where they would have to charge VAT on the insurance premiums. Domestic airline companies also now have to charge VAT on their services to customers. And then the general increase in some excise taxes would mean that businesses would have some increase in cost in terms of taxes.
All right. So tell us about the techniques. I mean, how can they navigate? I mean, it's the most important question right now. Yeah. How can they navigate the recent tax measures so that their businesses are sustainable?
Right. So how businesses can navigate, I put that in 4 buckets. So the first one is to assess what the tax changes mean to you, the tax cost for your business. So it's important you are assessing the cost implications from a tax point of view to your budget and what that means in your pricing and how your operations will go this year. Secondly, it's important for the businesses that are affected to make changes to their reporting structure that they have. I mentioned the insurance companies will now have to charge VAT on insurance premium, and that is limited to non-life insurance companies. So they would have to start making the changes to their reporting structure. Do they have the resources to file monthly VAT? That would be important. Real estate companies letting out places would also now charge VAT on 5%, which is a flat rate compared to standard rate that they were doing. So real estate companies also need to make changes to what they report and critically check whether they have the resources, they have the expertise, or they are bringing in expertise from outside the organization to make sure that they meet these compliance requirements. Thirdly, in a year where you have high tax costs, all companies, all businesses will have to make sure that they are identifying all tax deductions available to them and all tax incentives and make sure that they are making the most out of it. Typical example is that we have already in our law deduction for additional deduction when you employ fresh graduates. Our companies taking advantage of this. You can get up to 50% of the salaries and wages of fresh graduates. So this is a time to look out for what the deductions are available for the company and make sure you are getting the most out of all your deductions, whether it means you are keeping the right records, you are having the supporting documents to support your expenses, and of course, taking advantage of things like the graduate deduction that we have available to companies. And in this year, we've had some companies having some exemption. Local production of sanitary towels will now go at 0% VAT. So companies in that space should make sure that they are taking advantage of that this year and going forward. Then lastly, what I would say is that in a high tax environment, businesses should have a tax rate strategy. There are changes. I mentioned yesterday that I would describe our tax system as fluid because these changes keep coming and it means different things for different businesses. You would have to have a tax strategy where you identify where your tax rates will come from, because coupled with these changes in taxes, is also a drive from the Revenue Authority to implement a robust tax audit system. So businesses should have a tax strategy, identify where their tax risk is coming from, and have a plan around what you would do in your next tax audit and how you plan to assess or how you plan to handle that tax audit.
The tax strategy include tax avoidance, which is perfectly legal.
Well, so tax avoidance, better put tax planning. So your tax strategy should include some tax planning, knowing, and that includes knowing the benefits under the tax law available to the company and taking advantage of those benefits, which is different from tax evasion. Yeah, so tax planning should be part of your tax strategy. Planning how you identify risks, how you mitigate those risks, and how you address those risks when they do come up would be important components of your tax strategy.
All right, we have barely 2 minutes. I want to ask you about, you talked about the tax exemption, so I want to ask you about what sort of impact you think they are going to make, how significant of an impact is that going to be on the operations of businesses, and how do we also ensure that there is compliance? What systems you put in place to ensure there is compliance to these tax measures?
Right, so when it comes to the incentives or exemptions, so these are very targeted. Like I mentioned, you have the sanitary towel space where companies manufacturing those locally would have the 0 rating on their output. You also have extension of VAT 0 rating for textile manufacturing companies, which the importance of that cannot be underscored. The textile industry, for instance, has been badly affected by various external factors, and this support over the past few years have been very important for them. So I believe targeted sector-specific exemptions and incentives would help have the sector up and running, drive the domestic production we are talking about, and employment.
30 seconds, how do you approach tax compliance?
For 2024, do not miss your compliance, but importantly, do not miss where you have advantages to take for your business through deductions and also through incentives that are available to various businesses.
All right, great having you on the Marketplace with Kwanu, Associate Director, Tax Regulatory Services, Deloitte Ghana. I appreciate your time. And that's the Marketplace. More news on our website, nigeriaonline.com/business. There's more on our top story, actually 2 of them. External debt restructuring of Riyadh travels to China next week. Government to meet bondholders. Also, we have that Fitch Solutions Sovereign Outlook report for you to read. nigeriaonline.com/business. My name is Daryl. Thanks for being with us. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow.